Okay, today guys, I'm going to share with you how I process in Instagram. And so when I pull up Instagram to add a new photo, I choose the photo I want. And sorry, there's a ton of stuff down here. Okay, so I pick the picture I want, and then you can, drag it around to where you want to crop it. If you want the full crop, just hit that bottom left-hand icon with the two arrows, and you can do a full picture, because a lot of times the iPhone will take a wider picture than what Instagram typically wants to do with squares. So this one's fine to be square cropped, and I'll move it over because there's a house over there that I don't want to have in the frame. So there you go. Pick that, hit the next button at the top right, and then what you're given here is along the bottom under your picture is a list of presets that have some pretty cool effects. Some light leaks and some color effects and stuff like that, and some, so this is pretty normal. If you're used to Instagram, you're going to see this every time you post. And sometimes you've already processed your pictures and you think that some of these kind of give you a little bit of oomph to the ones you've already processed still. Because Instagram is typically viewed on a phone, it's nice to go through and give it a little extra bump in color or saturation, or even desaturate. In this case, it looks kind of cool. But yeah, you play around with it, pick one you want, and I'm going to go with something like this, the Ludwig. Anyways, if you like the way it looks, you can just leave it and go to the next, hit next again. But if you're like me and you want to do it like maybe not so much, tap it again, and then it gives you a slider in which you can see the effects. That's no effect, and that's 100% effect. No effect, 100%. So I usually like to do somewhere around the middle, like 50-ish% or so, and then you can do frame or no frame by clicking the little square next to it, which kind of gives like a cool kind of paper frame, or like film slide type frame. So I don't like to usually do 100% of any filter when I do that. So I usually stick around half, and then you hit finish and go to next. Oops, sorry. I don't go to next usually. Usually I go to edit after that. So first it's filter, and then you can see edit in the gray down there at the bottom right. Click on edit, and now you've got further controls to adjust the preset you just picked. So in here you can adjust. You can adjust here. You can turn your. You can straighten it basically. You can rotate it up here with the top right hand corner. You can get rid of the grid, increase the grid size, or do no grid. Oh, straighten here. So sorry. Click on the little dial, and so if you need to straighten your picture out, and if you need to increase your grid, you can do that, and then you can straighten your picture out if it needs straightening. And then here's tilt. You can like do a cool skew if you need to adjust your photo, or even do a keystone type of skew to bring out more stuff. So I don't like any of those options, so I'm going to go back because I like the way it's framed already. Brightness, usually I bump up the brightness just a tiny bit. Contrast also just a tiny bit. And then structure is one that I like to use a lot of because it brings all that, look at all that detail in the clouds just come right out. And so I'll bump the structure up about halfway. I don't want it to get too grainy. And then warmth is good if you want to increase, warmth or cool. So it's -100 is cooling it down, warming it up. And so, maybe just warm it up just a little tiny bit. It's pretty saturated already, so I'm actually not going to do saturation. Color is cool because you can do shadows or highlights. So you can see here, you click on highlights, it highlights those. Click on shadows. And so if you do like this, you can get the the cool blues or purple or reds or yellows in your shadows. And then if you do highlights, it does the same thing but for your highlights. And so if I wanted to increase the yellow in the clouds, I could do that, which actually is not too bad looking. That's a little too much like the other colors. So, and then none. So I might just do a little bit of yellow there. Hit done. Fade is if you want to fade the whole thing. It mostly just fades the blacks. I don't really like that effect too much, although this could offer a little bit like kind of like bringing shadows up. Could offer a little bit of that. But there is another option for shadows and highlights, and that's next. Highlights. So highlights, you can turn them up. That blows them out obviously in this picture, but I want to turn them down and bring that detail back out of those clouds and really emphasize the drama there. So I like doing that, bring the shadows or the highlights way down to bring out those clouds. And then shadows, you can see if you bring it down, it adds more contrast, but if you bring it up, it brings more detail to the foreground. So it's kind of hard to say because the tree is dead center of this image, but I don't really think of him as like the main subject, but it kind of is. So I mean, I could bring out more detail, but then you can see how much it totally fades out the mountains back there. So I might just bring it just a tiny bit, a little bit below 20. Vignette is going to give you the focus right in the middle. It's going to darken the sides, and then also tilt shift is really cool if you're going to do any kind of. You can see where that white thing is. You can click and move that around. So I'm clicking with my thumb, I'm moving it around, and that's like the focus of it. And then when you let go, you can see. And this particular image might look cooler if it was a line, right? But then my subject is this big vertical tree, right? You can do 2 fingers or 2 thumbs and then rotate that guy, which is way cool. I just found this out the other day. You can do that. And then you can stretch it out too. So if I really wanted to do something cool and creative here, I could do that. And then you can see how now it's really focusing on that tree. And you can see how it's still just fading the tree out a little bit. And I want the fade to come in. You can see the gradient starts to fade in just at the edges of the tree there. And so that's what I'm kind of more looking like more of something like that. So, and now you got this cool kind of artistic, effect going on there. And since I've done that, now I want to do some other things. I always sharpen my images, especially since they're going to be on mobile phones most of the time, and usually the screens aren't that big, and so sharpening is always a good thing. Your picture's going to pop. And I usually turn sharpen up around 20 or 30 or so, and this one 30 is definitely acceptable. So I might go back to contrast now and increase the contrast now because and you can see the contrast actually darkens up my tree too. And so I'll have to pull out more shadows in there, but I want to turn the contrast in the whole picture overall. And so I'll do that. Might increase the structure a little bit, just really bump it up. And then I'll go back to my shadows and maybe turn those up a little bit since I added more contrast. And so you can see this kind of like you can go back and forth and make some cool edits until your heart's content, basically. I might turn those color down the highlights, maybe see how that looks. So the yellow still kind of looks cool. And you can turn saturation down. So it might look kind of cool. It's just like a little bit of saturation, like, black and whitish. Or you can crank it way up and overdo it, but I don't really typically like to do that. I might just turn it down a little bit. So maybe like 4 or 5. That actually looks pretty good. Okay, so that's usually what I do, and you can go switch back and forth. If you don't like the filter, you can always go back and add, jump to another filter like that guy. And then if you don't like that 100%, and I'm not sure if the other edits are still there. Let's check it out and see if the other edits are still there. It looks like they are. So you can see here, like it really blows my clouds out when I go all the way. But maybe something around 40 is good. And then let me go back to my edits. And it looks like my edits are still there. So that's pretty awesome. I didn't realize I could do that either. You can actually go back to filter and change your filter on top of the edits you already did. And just be careful that when you go back to a new filter, it's going to jump to 100%, see? And so if you jump back to another filter, it's going to keep it at 40. Wow, it's pretty awesome. They've really done some good work on this app. So I'm pretty impressed. I've been happy with the way I've been able to process in here. And then you just go to next and do your normal thing. Write your caption, tag people, friends, whatever, add your location, and then you're off to the races, and you can submit it and share it with your group. So that's how I process an Instagram, and I hope this is helpful to you guys. I hope you can find some value there. This is Brendan from Photog Adventures, and I hope you have a good day. Take care.